we have Michael Vass with us, the great one. Michael, what is on your mind? I'm sure there's a lot that you're focused on.
There's a lot of things that are happening right now. I mean, we've heard about Merrick Garland this morning. He was talking about how this was perfectly normal. This was perfectly fine to do, even though we've already found out that the FBI was down at the Trump Mar-a-Lago location back in January, took away 15 boxes of documents. They were there in June. They took additional documents. So either the FBI is inept and they forgot documents that were classified and necessary to be removed from the location, or this was political. It's one or the other, because obviously they've been there twice before this year, and they could have obviously taken care of this right up front. This shouldn't have happened. But we even have people like Eric Swalwell, you know, the gentleman who loves to sleep with the Chinese spies, trying to say, well, this is okay. You know, it's only Trump's fault that we know about this. Think about that statement. He said it on Twitter, that it was Trump's fault that this is public and he has been embarrassed. Well, no. What you're trying to say, what Eric Swalwell is saying in that statement, it comes across as, well, the American people should be denied information about an unprecedented move against our presidents that changes our political landscape forever, and that he would prefer to see that information only revealed to the public in the form of an October surprise to surprise and shock the public. That's terrifying to me. But this is the kind of politics that we're seeing. But the things that we're not seeing, the things that we're not talking about that are going on right now, well, there's the fact that we have this insane individual that went after the FBI today. We're being blamed for that. Everybody is being blamed for that because it's one individual. Notice that Republicans weren't blaming everyone because of Steve Scalise being shot by that one insane individual. We don't see Republicans going around saying that every Democrat is evil because of the riots and the destruction of cities and the 36 people killed by BLM and Antifa. No, we don't see that. This doesn't make any sense. How about this? Let's take a different look altogether, moving away from that. How about the fact that I think everyone has forgotten? Remember that the Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas was supposed to have out a report on August 3rd about the disinformation. There it is, Disinformation Governance Board. That's the word I was missing, governance. So that was supposed to have a report out on August 3rd, which we already know the detail of which, based on the initial response, the initial review, is it was completely unnecessary. It would not protect American citizens. It would not help to remove disinformation from social media, that this was unnecessary. Where's the report? That was supposed to be out 7 days ago. It's gone. The public has forgotten about it because they don't want us to remember that we had the Biden-Harris administration actively trying to propagandize the American public. This is insane. And we know that they're doing things. Remember, we still have the Inflation Reduction Act, which is being heralded as a savior. It's saving America right now because we had zero, according to Biden, zero inflation last month. That's a lie. We had a 0% increase in inflation last month because it stayed exactly the same. Inflation didn't go down. This had nothing to do with the Biden-Harris administration or its policies. We have oil. Our oil, which is being sold to China, is holding inflation at the same level. It hasn't gone down. At the same time, we have the Bank of England saying that there's going to be a recession this year, that they're looking at 13% inflation. And if you think that the United Kingdom, which is directly tied with the United States, both in politics and in economy, if they're looking at 13% inflation and we usually do worse than they do, you mean to tell me that we've got this solved? These are the problems that really should be focusing America. But it's also important to look at what's happening in Mar-a-Lago and the consequences that are going to come out of this. It is truly a terrifying time to be an American.
I do want to get everybody's thoughts on this panel, but I want to respond to you, Michael, and I want to read these reports. I know we talked about this on the Tuesday show of the S&P 500, but just so we're clear, The Trump has said this, that the DOJ and the FBI have previously asked for extra lock on a document storage room they broke during the raid. So this was almost like, a setup. They wanted to make it look dramatic, obviously, right?
This was in June when they got the last set of documents, when they had walked up to the Trump officials. They had spoken with his lawyers, went into Mar-a-Lago. They were already there, reviewed the entire place for the second time, and got the additional documents that they needed. And then they said, oh, and put on an extra lock.
Yeah. And Palm Beach County Sheriff has told Judicial Watch that they have no record about Biden's FBI political raid on Trump's home. How is that possible?
Because they were trying to, what I believe was happening is this was a setup. It was meant to be quiet until some of the allies of the Biden-Harris administration, we're talking about CNN, MSNBC, NBC, would have come out with a breakthrough story telling us about all this evidence that they found to try and criminalize President Trump and to take away from the America First candidates across this nation that are winning in landslides, or at least expected to win in landslides. And so this was supposed to be their October surprise. This was supposed to take down Republicans and give Democrats a chance to actually have a fighting chance, because they can't win on any policy, domestic or international. They have failed at everything. So this would be the only way that they could besmirch Republicans by surprising the public. And that's why I think no one was told about this. It was because it was meant to be a political advantage.
Why were they going through Melania Trump's wardrobe? Were they sniffing her panties or something? I mean, what's the point with that, Michael? What are your thoughts?
Well, I know what the excuse is. Well, we have a warrant. We have to check everything. Well, you've already been there twice. Again, you've been there in January. You were there in June. You already had access to the entire facility. You looked through everything. So why are they going back and doing this now? To embarrass, to discourage, and to try and get a political advantage. It always comes down to the same thing. And obviously, if someone went through your house and ruffled through all of your private areas and just destroyed it, wouldn't you be discouraged? Wouldn't you be, especially if you were a regular citizen and have no power in the government, how would you feel? This was meant to intimidate, to coerce, and that's terrifying for the future of America.
And Ron DeSantis had no knowledge or, inside information on this. He said that they didn't disclose any of that to him. I mean, that's terrifying. And Biden and his people are playing dumb, of course.
Well, Biden's saying he has no knowledge about any of this.
And so is Garland. They're trying to play it off.
Well, no, because Biden probably doesn't know anything, because you could tell him almost anything and he wouldn't know it unless it was on a cue card that said, you sit here. So I believe that Biden doesn't know, because he could have been told, could have watched it, and he would still not know what was going on. But Garland has said he signed off on this. And this goes back to what I said in the S&P 500. This is at the top levels. They're trying to make it seem like, oh, we're attacking the rank and file FBI. No, I'm attacking Director Wray. I'm attacking Attorney General Merrick Garland, because they're the ones who signed off on this. They approved of doing this secretly, of going in with the SWAT team, of not going through the protocols they had already established. They did this because of the political impact and the attempt to coerce. And that's why we're attacking them, the leadership, because they're the ones who are the problem.
And when we were discussing on the S&P 500 the other night, the fact that they could possibly plant evidence, Trump put out a message on Truth Social, like shortly after, I think the next day, talking about that, worried about that. And, they were very aggressive, but that's not uncommon. But they were way more aggressive to a whole new level. I mean, a whole nother extreme, because they're dealing with Donald Trump, and the lawyers were not allowed in there. There was so much corruption.
That's a violation. Again, as we had spoken about before, it's a violation to allow them to go into a room without being observed, without someone being there, which is their rights. They have no right to privately and individually search through without the lawyers being present. So that adds to the question of was evidence dropped there? Was anything planted? Now, they may want to say, maybe it's the truth that nothing like that happened. Maybe. But because of the nature in which they did this and the way they violated the rights of President Trump of America, in fact, then we have a question. And as Americans with the First Amendment, we should ask this question and we must demand to get these answers because the government doesn't have the right to say, oh, trust us and let it go. I'm sorry. No, I don't trust you and I don't want to let it go because I think it is political. I think it is obvious coercion. And this should take down, it won't, but it should take down Garland and it should take down Director Wray.
And yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely through the roof. I mean, and it's not going to end here. They're going to get more and more intense and extreme. I mean, don't you agree?
I don't know how you get more extreme than where we are right now, but it is possible that they could. I'm expecting that we're going to see in probably October several of the attacks that are going to come out of this. They're going to somehow try and connect this to January 6th. They're going to try and make this part of an insurrection. They're going to try and demonize every Republican, every conservative, anyone who isn't falling in line with the progressive ideology. And they're going to use that as their tactic to win as many seats as they can in 2022. But I think they are also seeing right now that was their plan. It's failed. The American public are not in agreement with what they have done. And it doesn't matter what political line. You can go to Democrats and say, hey, do you agree with the way this has been done? Does this feel like this is something that was done above board? And no one agrees. The backlash is intense, which is why they are trying to switch the story now, saying, no, this is a normal procedure. We had to do this to protect you and I. I'm sorry. There's no document that's going to the National Archives that's going to protect you and me. That's not the case. That's just not a reality. So they're just trying to make up any story they can to cover themselves, to give them some leeway until they can come up with their connection to January 6th, which will come out in October, and try and win some seats.
And let's not forget this Reinhardt guy, the judge that, authorized this raid, was an associate of Epstein, helped out a lot of people connected with Epstein, was a big Obama donor. We could go on and on. This is obviously...
Well, it adds, and again, it adds to the questions. We have a figure that gave up his judgeship to become a lawyer to defend the Epstein people, his corporation and individuals, and then got reappointed right after he got done with that. That seems to be questionable at the very least. There seems to be a relationship there that should be investigated. And his connection to, he's made donations, which again adds to this realm of questions that we have. This is lack of credibility. And why should we have any credibility? We've been lied to so many times by the Biden-Harris administration. How many Americans are still in Afghanistan to this day? We know it's at least hundreds. It's potentially thousands. They won't even talk about it. It's a taboo subject to even hear. We have Biden lying to the American people on top of that, saying, oh, inflation, it's gone. There was zero inflation. No, you're lying. That's not even factually correct. Did you read what the CPI report said? Because if you do, the very first sentence in the CPI report says that Biden is lying. It's that obvious. You don't have to go, this isn't deep research. The first sentence of the report. So, I mean, why do we trust? This is why we don't trust our government, why we don't trust the Biden-Harris administration, and why we don't trust the news reporters who have already come out just last month and said 55% of them don't believe in being unbiased. They believe in projecting a biased set of viewpoints to the public without disclosing that they're being biased about it. No wonder we're seeing such a decline.
Amen. Amen. Let's go to Tricia Flanagan out of New Jersey, who has ran for Congress, done a lot of things in politics. Welcome back. I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you, Rory. It's always a pleasure. And
Yeah.
I think Michael made some excellent points, especially about What I agree is they're looking at as a possible transition to anything January 6th, right? But, I like to parse out the evidence. So let's look at what we know. So the FBI was there for 9 hours, a little over 9 hours. And Rory, you mentioned a key element, I think, is that not only did they go into Melania Trump's closet, but they went into nooks and crannies that did not cover.
And why were they going in his safe? Like, what the hell were they doing with that as well? Like, do you think he's stupid enough? If he had anything, do you think he would hide it in his? I mean, that's too obvious. Go ahead. Sorry.
But see, I no, that's okay. No, I think that betrays their motive, and I'll tell you why. Because when you're going into all of these different nooks and crannies where you know what you're looking for, okay, there are these boxes of papers that are for the National Archives. That's not hard to identify. That's especially when you have told President Trump that you want to lock on that specific door. That kind of leads you right to that door. There's your evidence that you're looking for. Then take it. That's according to the warrant. But I think that, when they barred President Trump's attorneys from being present and overseeing that they had a legal right to, that is a real breach of a legal element that I think we're going to hear about later. But they barred the attorneys. Then they did something very interesting as well. They pulled out everybody that was there. They didn't let anybody else there. And they asked an employee to shut down the surveillance cameras. Well, interestingly, Eric Trump verified today that that employee actually did not turn off the surveillance cameras. So we saw a press conference today by Merrick Garland where he hemmed and hawed, didn't answer any questions, and verified that he himself was the one that authorized the warrant when previous reports had said otherwise. But I think that nervousness and that lack of disclosure today was a little scrambling. And here's why. Because I think it was a fact-finding mission for January 6th. Because legally we know that if there's a warrant for one issue, but there's court precedence for this, if you go in and you find evidence of another crime, that is admissible in a court of law. So I think they went in under one premise and started going after anything that they could find and putting it in their bag of tricks. 9 hours, that's a little long for National Archive documents. So I think, number one, that was their intent. Number two, I think they were thwarted by the fact that the surveillance cameras, now they know, are on. So what do you do if you're Merrick Garland? What do you do if you're the Biden regime that even if they found something that they can try to twist and use, now they know that there were surveillance cameras all along. So if they plucked something out from President Trump's office that they weren't supposed to be there according to the warrant, now they have to hedge a bet. Do I take a bet and say, well, in Melania's closet, there probably aren't cameras. Maybe I'll try to, make a hat or a brooch. That's a Monty Python reference. To take, a piece of evidence and twist it into something. Or were there? They really have to be careful now. And I think that's number one, why you saw Merrick Garland's nervousness, why the Biden administration is trying to distance itself, because now Biden's saying, I didn't know Merrick Garland was going to do a press conference today. Really? I didn't know anything about the warrant. Really? I mean, there are more questions than answers again, but I think that now there's somewhat of a checkmate by President Trump, and game is on in terms of what they're going to try to do in this October surprise. I agree with you, Michael, as well, that they're going to try to fashion something before the midterm. And I'll toss out one other issue. I don't think this will hold up, but with that National Archives underpinning, there is a U.S. code that says that if a president or any elected official does not cooperate with the National Archive presidential law, that now it's all the property of the National Archives, that person cannot run for future political office. Now, that is unconstitutional. And many legal scholars and even the Democrats are saying that's real tenuous. That's real thin ice. But if they're after a narrative, why not throw that out there and see if it sticks? I think they're going to put it all together, and it's all to get Trump, and it's all to make sure that they have a narrative going into the midterm.
Go to Calan Hunter, best-selling author, businessman, special Marine ops, done a lot. Calan, what are your thoughts on everything?
That's right. I agree with Trish. One of the things that I have to say is, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but it broke. I knew it probably maybe about 8 o'clock. I think it broke around then that they were looking for nuclear submarine material during the raid, and that's what's going to come out. So why I say this is Russiagate 2? I've seen it a couple of places. After I heard it, I think I heard about 45 minutes before that. And then I said to myself, as Trish says, October surprise. It's about time to do it. So you do it mid-August, September, you cloud in October. A lot of these places have got those mail-in ballots, drop off stocking stuffer ballots, as I like to call them, coming up. And, it's probably, perfect time. So one of the things I was thinking when I put it all together, I was like, are they really going to try Russiagate 2? And it just blew up in their face. As I told, you and Mike, Trump should have declared right then, the next day. He said, I'm running for president. This is ridiculous. Yeah. So that ends the October surprise.
I mean, the campaign ad basically hinted at that it's official. I mean, that's what it was pointing towards. But I wish it was him coming out on the stage saying, it's time to rock and roll, baby.
I mean, I wish it was a little early in the year, so I wouldn't be waiting until 2024 to run. But, beside that, which it's, I was just so perplexed that the Democrats, they're going to lose anyway. I mean, Trump's not on the ballot. No. So this is ready to come up with, and now all of a sudden, you make Trump stronger.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I hear a lot of your guests, and Paul and John were great. I thought they were awesome. Paul, what a great interview he was, and John as well.
Sure.
Everybody's talking about, Trump and DeSantis. There's no way DeSantis is going to run or actually do that right now.
Oh, and that's what I've said many times. I said DeSantis will finish off his 4 years in Florida. He'll help the people of Florida, and then Trump will pass him the torch in 2028 after Trump is done taking care of business. Because Trump has way too big of an ego to just walk away. He's going to finish what he started.
Oh, exactly. But one of the things that to me, it'd be perfect to end the solution. You just put DeSantis on the ticket. Because DeSantis owes Trump anyway. Because he was behind almost 5 to 7 points before Trump had endorsed him in Florida.
Exactly. And if DeSantis did that, it would be alienating and it would be horrible for DeSantis. It would be political suicide.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no shot at all that DeSantis and Trump will ever win.
No.
Guaranteed, no. Because whoever Trump's vice president's going to be, I mean, you remember, it's only a 4-year term. Okay, so technically it's going to be 2 years of Trump before, people start getting, throwing their hat in the ring. So obviously he's going to back his vice president. I mean, it'd be crazy not to, because that wouldn't make a lot of sense. So how's DeSantis? So he's going to lose 2 elections in a row, 2024, 2028? It'd be political suicide.
True. Very true. This is going to get interesting. These midterms are going to get very interesting. I can't wait. And once we take back the House, and once we, have the majority in the Senate, we need investigation after investigation after investigation, and things need to be done. I mean, this needs to be America first all day, every day.
Oh, absolutely. I think the Democrats just kiss the Senate away. There's no doubt in my mind they're going to lose the Senate now. It's going to save Johnson in Wisconsin. I think Nevada's gone for the Democrats.
Yeah.
Those are 2 seats. I think it's going to push Herschel Walker over the finish line.
Yeah, that's a close one. Yeah.
That's 3 pickups right there. I think Doc Dobbs, that race is creeping up. He's creeping back up again. You can't trust
Oprah's best friend, the Rhino, Romney 2.0, John McCain 2.0.
Listen, I don't care if he's Romney 2.0. He's got an R at the end of his last name, and it gets Chuck Schumer out of there.
True.
Beat him after the next 6 years.
I hear you. You think they'll make? Wait. What do you mean about Schumer? What were you saying about Schumer?
No, I was talking about Dr. Oz. If he's so bad, primary him and when the term's up. But right now, he need an R on the end of his name just to swing the Senate.
Yeah,
I'd go every Rhino on the ticket when it comes to the Senate if I had to.
Right. No, absolutely. And Pastor, you have some thoughts. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Is the first thing.
Yes.
I can hear you. Yes, finally, you're back.
Good to see everyone.
Good to see you too.
I think they knew because one report is saying that they were screaming and so happy in the White House going on. So I believe he knew exactly what was going on and what was occurring in the White House. They went after Trump for these. We know that Hillary and Bill's got a bunch of stuff. They took $200,000 worth of furniture when they left, and they were asked to bring it back, and they did, but they got boxes. Obama's got stuff that he's supposed to scan and made access to, never has. How come they've not went down and knocked down the doors and grabbed all the stuff they have? Because it's just to send something to the lady in, is it Michigan, the lady ours running for governor, and the one that need to be quiet, we're going to come after you. I think that's one of the reasons they did this, is tell everybody to be quiet. Let us basically destroy America. I'm sitting there saying this is wrong. Everything they're doing right now is constitutional, and it is wrong. And I think it helped Trump, and I think it's helped the Republicans win 24. One of the new things this week was probably one of Trump's best weeks.
You're breaking up a bit. Michael says you're breaking up a bit. Will you call right back in? Commander, what's going on? Commander Grimes, running for Congress in Florida.
All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you, man. What's going on?
Right, hey, I'm back from an event on the campaign trail. Loving your show again. You guys are covering everything, and I just want to say that this raid on Mar-a-Lago is a sign of things to come if we don't take back the House in 2022.
It's so true, dude. It's so true. Everything going well? Your event go good?
Everything's great. I mean, I actually had like 3 events, and I've got Skyra here holding the, holding the camera.
Hi, how are you?
We're on the final stretch of the day, but yeah, we're doing some great things down here. The primary is August 23rd, and we're fighting the fight. Proud to say I've been endorsed by Ryan Zinke and the SEAL PAC, and Trump's attorney and ambassador to Israel, David Friedman. Nice. So we're on the right track with some good patriots behind us.
I love it, dude. I love it. And so when is your primary again?
August 23rd.
Perfect.
Testing.
Perfect.
But,
Well,
I was going to say, I mean, this Mar-a-Lago, it's not, this is something that is unprecedented in American history. I mean, an actual, former sitting president of the United States having his house raided by the FBI. Like, there's no plausible deniability by anybody at any level of our government at the highest levels as to any confusion. Like, this was all deliberate. And it's intended, like Michael said earlier, this is like the October surprise for the midterms.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. There's no doubt about it. Pastor, are you back with us?
Yeah, can you hear me better?
Oh, it's perfect. It's way, way better. Let's hear your thoughts about what you were saying stuff earlier and we got cut off.
I kind of jumped over to, because I'm kind of very Joe Manchin. Basically got bribed to vote for a bill, and that's what it was.
Can't believe it.
There was some stuff in it about coal, and they couldn't get it through. He said it wasn't in there, but it wasn't. Quit using as much coal. So that would have went against West Virginia, which is the second biggest producer. But the IRS getting $87,000 more job description. It was to take people's lives if they wanted to or had to. And somebody said, it's not that. They're coming after the American people. They're coming after us.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. And I want to go through. Michael, you want to respond? Go ahead.
Well, Pastor just brought up something really interesting. A lot of people may not be aware because it's been deleted now, but the IRS said that they wanted 87,000 agents,
Right.
and that those agents should be able to be armed and willing to use deadly force.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
what's come out since that time is we've seen in several reports, well, this is normal for the position, which is a CI, a special agent in the IRS. And that's always been normally part of their job duties. Well, here's the question I have for everyone in America. If it's so normal and if it's so commonplace, why did they pull the ad? All they had to do is say, we've done this before. Show a previous time that they've asked for people to have the job and show the same comment. Rather than do that, rather than prove that this is normal and commonplace and part of the job, they removed it so the American public can't see what they are doing, which means there is a question, which means we need an answer. I think that's very clear, and I think that should. Thank you for bringing it up, Pastor.
Right. I want to. Go ahead. May I say something? Oh, I thought somebody said something. Okay, I want to go through some headlines, guys. I want to get everybody's thoughts. I want to make sure we cover everything. We just obviously covered a bunch of things with the raid. Let's see here. What does everybody think about these taxes? Michael, I'll start with you. The House has now got access to Trump's tax returns. He's obviously going to appeal it. How do you think this is going to play out? You know, they've been trying to fight this battle for so many years, and usually in the end they end up losing. But they have so many corrupt judges now that are compromised. I mean, who knows?
Who cares about it? What does
who cares? But here's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Is have you ever seen how complicated a billionaire's tax returns can be? I mean, these people can go through these documents. They can point out one wrong thing that they don't understand correctly, and they can start charging him with a crime. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to get his tax returns so they can frame him for a crime. This is one of many things there.
Well, not even a crime. They're just trying to use it as another hammer blow against his character. They're trying to destroy his character. And they're trying to use something that no one likes to. No one listens to math. No one pays attention to the IRS, to their tax returns. That's why we have so many people accountants who do this for a living. People don't want to do it yourself. You don't know what. I don't care who you are in America. You can't understand our IRS, the tax forms that you're filling out, because they rely on 50,000 other documents that you don't have the time, nor the patience, nor the experience to look up and figure out what's going on. It's a complete mess. So they're using this as a way to say, okay, the public is very little, there's very little information on this, very badly informed on this. They can make up almost anything they want. And the answer to whatever they make up is going to be both intricate and boring to the American public, so they won't listen. This is why they're after his documents. This is why they have been consistently after them, because it's something that even the rebuttal will not get any attention. This is an attack. It's character assassination, and it's classic. This is useless. It provides no benefit to the American people. It has no impact on the American people. This is politics. We need to call it for what it is.
Yeah. I
Don't you think that IRS has already went through that? Don't you think the IRS has already went through his tax returns? They know what's there.
Oh, yeah.
Multiple times.
If there was anything, it would already be out by now. Tricia, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the most important point of all. And I'll tell you, my theory of this going on for years. My theory is that it's going to be like the Geraldo Rivera opening of Al Capone's vault.
Oh, yes.
And the reason I say that is because, look, he was under audit. So as the pastor rightly said, the audit procedure is something very, very different. That's where any criminality, any tax code violations would be uncovered. So that process has already been completed. So I've always thought that President Trump is pushing this. He does want to keep that under confidentiality because it's a right that all Americans should have. So let's look at the possible outcomes. So what could we find? Well, we could have a Mitt Romney moment when it showed that Mitt Romney was paying 10 to 15% of his taxes compared to the average American, and probably offshoring a lot of money. Okay, well, he didn't get elected for other reasons. I don't think it was that. But that was a big, here it is, and it was a lead balloon. So what? To your point, Michael, so what? What else could we find? Well, anything criminal would have already been discovered, and that would have been, they leak documents all the time. I think we would already know about that. I think that this has become a Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner kind of tug and pull between people like Nancy Pelosi. She just wants to get him no matter what, because he left her on the tarmac that time, right? This is payback for something. And I think that, President Trump's big card that he can play, if it does turn out to be a big nothing burger, as their attacks always seem to do, then he can say, well, I did this, obviously, not because I was hiding anything, but because I was fighting for everyone's right to keep their private finances actually private. And that would win him tremendous points, even with the Democrats, I think, because how many Wall Street Democrats are offshoring money, the whole 9 yards. So I don't think we'll uncover anything criminal because that would have already been done with by the IRS. So his tax bracket is going to get uncovered. Don't we already kind of know what that probably is? And then, the opportunity is for him to come out as being the hero that, as he says time and time again, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just in the way. It'll support that narrative. And I think it'll make him a true hero. We'll see.